afternoon. I'm Rob Boskamp, and you're listening to South Texas Midday. Thank you for joining me on Black Friday. It is November 28th. SpaceX is already planning their next launch for 2026. They announced on X that they're aiming for the first quarter of next year. They also said they plan to have the Super Heavy booster stack by next month. SpaceX says a new version of the Starship will be used for the next test launch. SpaceX had a successful launch out of Boca Chica last month when the booster and Starship landed in different parts of the ocean as planned. Earlier this week, the Aransas County Commissioners Court approved an emergency allocation of up to $100,000 for the Rockport Fulton Good Samaritan organization. The funding was unanimously approved during a regular meeting on Monday. The Rockport Pilot reports that the funding drawn from healthcare sales tax revenue rather than the county's general fund was drawn to benefit the Good Samaritan's food assistance efforts. The organization reported a 36% increase in households served between October and November, with about 700 families this month alone. Stephanie Simmons, executive director of Rockport Fulton Good Samaritans, told the Rockport Pilot they now rely less on the Coastal Bend Food Bank and must purchase more food at retail prices. The motion provided an immediate $10,000 for a holiday voucher program allowing residents to select needed food items at local retailers. Remaining funds will address future needs with the understanding that the budget could be adjusted next year. Downtown Harlingen saw some standing water in areas of town after getting some light rain this week. A $3 million drainage project is expected to help with that. The project broke ground this month and will triple the amount of stormwater capacity in the area. City officials told KRGV that wet weather won't delay work, and they expect the project to be completed by November of 2026. Crews will be installing 48 and 54-inch pipe across 5,000 feet along 5th and 7th Streets. The price of Bitcoin is down more than 30% from its October record, but that's not stopping the state of Texas from buying $5 million worth of the cryptocurrency. Texas Public Radio's David Martin Davies reports.
Texas is the first state in the U.S. to buy Bitcoin for its strategic reserve, acquiring $5 million at roughly $87,000 per Bitcoin, according to Bitcoin Magazine. The purchase was made through BlackRock iShares Bitcoin Trust. The move signals growing state-level interest in Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. In June, Governor Greg Abbott signed the legislation into law, creating the Texas State Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. I'm David Martin Davies in San Antonio.
Time to take a look at sports this weekend in college basketball. The Texas A&M Kingsville women's team will spend their weekend at the St. Mary's Holiday Classic in San Antonio. They will first face Oklahoma Baptist University this afternoon, followed by Washburn University tomorrow afternoon. On Wednesday, they will face the Division II nationally ranked Texas Women's University. Meanwhile, the Texas A&M and Corpus Christi men's basketball team will be in Cincinnati this afternoon as they take on the Xavier Musketeers. UTRGV men's and women's basketball will open Southland Conference play next week. The women will face Lamar and Beaumont on Tuesday. The men travel to Nacogdoches to play Stephen F. Austin on Wednesday. In hockey, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays will be in action tonight and tomorrow at the Hilliard Center against the New Mexico Ice Wolves. Last weekend, the Ice Rays traveled and lost both games to the hosting Ice Wolves. The Ice Rays are currently in last place in the NAHL South Division standings. And high school football playoffs continue tonight. Here are some of the games with South Texas teams. In Class 5A Division II, Victoria West goes head-to-head with Alamo Heights and Bastrop. Gregory Portland faces Bernie in San Antonio. In Class 4A Division II, Rockport Fulton will take on Cuero at Buccaneer Stadium in Corpus Christi tonight. Sinton squares off with Wimberley in San Antonio. In Class 3A Division I, Edna faces Ingram Moore New Braunfels. Goliad takes on Llano and Bastrop, and Yoakum will face Hardin in Cypress. And in Class 2A Division I, Kennedy will take on Mason and Hutto. Refugio faces Ganado in Port Lavaca. A new study says the rate of teens engaging in daily nicotine vaping have nearly doubled in the last 5 years. The same goes for daily users who tried and failed to quit. Dr. Devika Rao of UT Southwestern Medical Center says it's clearly a case of addiction. In this installment of KERA's Vital Signs series, she tells Sam Baker vaping products are worse today than a few years ago.
These products contain nicotine that deliver a very potent dose to adolescents, and kids have developing brains. They're much more prone to developing addiction compared to adults. So the combination of enticing flavors, potent nicotine, media exposure through clever marketing, as well as powerful vapes, it's not surprising that kids are becoming more addicted compared to even just a few years ago.
So you're saying the products now are more powerful than then?
A lot of these products now contain synthetic nicotine. Toxicologists who do research studies on these types of toxins found that synthetic nicotine is much more potent. And in addition, the types of vapes that are available now contain much more dosages of nicotine compared to before. For example, there's vapes that contain 5,000, 10,000 puffs. And some of these vapes have the nicotine equivalents of 12 packs of cigarettes or more.
And I'm thinking a few years back when there was all the concerns about the flavored vapes, and there were efforts being made to go after companies that actually produce those. Are they just ignoring that totally?
So I think there is a gap between policy and enforcement that we have found even with the federal Tobacco 21 law stating that you have to be 21 to purchase tobacco products. But the enforcement of these policies is quite difficult. It appears that in practice, a lot of retailers carry many, many products that are actually not supposed to be on the market and are illegal.
Who's most likely to use vapes now?
The young adult group, the 18 to 24-year-olds, followed by adolescents younger than 18 years of age.
I understand there are increases now, though, among females, non-Hispanic Black youths, and rural adolescents as well.
These groups, I think, suffer a lot more mental health effects, perhaps than other comparable groups. And there's also a lot of evidence to suggest that those kids that have more stress, that have more mental health problems, that they're more likely to use these products. And in addition, the products themselves are associated with mental health effects. In other words, I have patients that say, well, I started using these products for anxiety and depression, but it seemed to actually make it worse.
You co-authored recommendations for treating nicotine use in adolescents under 18. Is there one particular recommendation that towers above the others?
The strongest evidence was for counseling. And some studies actually used a combination. They used technology-based programs, such as those via computer or a text messaging kind of program. And using that in combination with counseling did appear to be effective.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude?
I think that kids using these products, it's scary to parents. And I think parents can feel somewhat helpless. But I want to get the message out there that they should feel empowered. They can start talking to their kids when they're young, even 10, 11 years old, and talking to them in a very non-judgmental, open-ended manner. What do you know about these products? Do you have friends that use these products? Do you know anything about how harmful these products are? And that opens the conversation to what kids know, and parents and caregivers, they can educate kids on what the harms are of these products before they learn about these products through, for example, social media or through friends.
So the first effective step may be at home.
Yes, prevention is really, really key.
Dr. Devika Rao is an associate professor of pediatrics in the Division of Pulmonology and Sleep Medicine at UT Southwestern Medical Center. And in Chile, a telescope recently captured a stunning new picture of a grand cosmic butterfly. The National Science Foundation's Noir Lab released the picture on Wednesday. The Associated Press reports the photo was snapped last month by the Gemini South Telescope. The Butterfly Nebula is 2,500 to 3,800 light years away in the constellation Scorpius. A single light year is 6 trillion miles. At the heart of the Butterfly Nebula is a white dwarf star that cast aside its outer layers of gas long ago. The discarded gas forms butterfly-like wings from the aging star, whose heat causes the gas to glow. School children in Chile chose this astronomical target to celebrate 25 years of operation by the International Gemini Observatory. And that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Your community arts calendar and more is on the way.